Another family? No. That doesn't even make sense. He wouldn't do something like that. Would he?
He said he never wanted kids. So why is there a little girl on this phone calling my husband daddy? Oh God.
When Abeba spent 3 months planning the perfect 7th anniversary for her Korean husband, she never imagined the greatest gift she'd receive wouldn't come in a jewelry box. It would come from a forgotten phone hidden inside his travel bag. By sunrise, the brilliant AI engineer would discover that every dollar she'd sacrificed to save her husband's struggling business had never saved his company at all. It had been building another woman's home, paying another family's bills, and raising children who proudly called her husband Dad. And what hurt even more was discovering she hadn't been deceived by one man. She'd been deceived by an entire family. If you're already feeling the tension, hit that subscribe button on Afro Seoul Romance TV right now. Drop a comment saying I'm watching, and let's see who stays until the shocking end. And make sure you like this video. 3 days before the anniversary, everything had looked perfect from the outside. She was 34 years old, one of the sharpest AI engineers to come out of her generation, quietly brilliant in a way that never needed applause. By day, she consulted remotely for one of the largest technology firms in the world. What almost nobody knew, not her friends, not her extended family, was that she also owned a second, highly profitable AI consulting company under a different name. She had built it in the shadows of her marriage, not because she was ashamed of it, but because she wanted her work to prove itself on its own terms, without her husband's ego getting in the way. Her husband was Chan-yeol, a handsome, well-spoken Korean businessman who ran an import-export company moving luxury electronics and home appliances between South Korea and several African countries. What almost no one knew was that Abeba earned significantly more than he did. And what no one knew at all was how much of her money had quietly become his lifeline. Whenever his company struggled, she wired money into his accounts. Careful, documented, private loans, she told herself. Just a wife believing in her husband's dream, the way a partner should. Over 2 years, those loans had grown past $200,000. "You're doing the right thing," Chan-yeol's older sister, Min-so, told her one evening over tea, squeezing her hand like they were truly sisters. "A successful husband only needs a wife who believes in him. When he succeeds, you both succeed," Min-so said, another time, refilling Abeba's cup before she could even ask. And once, quietly, almost like a warning disguised as wisdom, "Don't ever let him feel like he's failing, Abeba. A man who feels like a failure at home becomes a stranger everywhere else." Abeba believed her. She believed all of it. She had grown up watching her own mother hold a family together through hard seasons, and she had promised herself she would be the kind of wife who never let her husband drown, even quietly, even invisibly, even at cost to herself. Money had never been what she wanted from marriage. She'd wanted partnership, mutual respect, someone to build a future with. That morning, 3 days before their 7th anniversary celebration, Abeba sat in her home office, finishing a video call with clients in Singapore. Her AI consulting firm had just secured another 6-figure contract, the third that month. "Ms. Abeba, your solutions are exactly what we've been searching for. When can we begin?" "I'll have my team send the timeline by tomorrow morning," Abeba replied calmly. "We'll ensure minimal disruption to your current systems." After the call ended, she allowed herself a small smile. Her company had grown beyond her projections. She was now one of the most sought-after AI consultants in the international market, though almost nobody in her personal life knew it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Chan-yeol. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up." Abeba typed back quickly. "No problem. I'll save dinner for you." She sent it with a heart emoji, just like always, but something small twisted in her chest. This was the 4th night this week. Before she could dwell on it, her phone rang. Chan-yeol's older sister, Min-so. "Abeba, I was just thinking about you. Are you busy?" "Never too busy for you," Abeba said, genuinely meaning it. Min-so had helped her navigate Korean family traditions, stood beside her when some relatives questioned their intercultural marriage, called her sister when Abeba felt most alone. "I wanted to talk to you about Chan-yeol," Min-so said, her tone shifting to concern. "He mentioned the business is going through another difficult period. I know he's too proud to ask, but..." Abeba's grip tightened. "Another difficult period. He didn't tell me things were that bad again. You know how men are. They don't want to worry their wives, but I think he's really struggling this time. The import costs have increased, and suppliers are demanding payment up front." Abeba thought about the money she'd already quietly transferred to Chan-yeol's company over the past 2 years. Over $200,000 had moved from her accounts to his business because she believed they were building something together. "How much does he need?" "Oh, I couldn't possibly ask you to. Min-so, we're family. How much?" There was a pause. "Maybe 50,000, just to cover the immediate supplier payments. Once this shipment clears, everything will stabilize. I'll transfer it today," Abeba said without hesitation. "You're an angel, Abeba. Truly. A successful husband only needs a wife who supports him, and you do that better than anyone I know." After they hung up, Abeba opened her banking app. Within minutes, the transfer was scheduled. She told herself this was what marriage meant: partnership, sacrifice, believing in each other when things got hard. What she didn't know was that across town, in a house she'd never seen, Chan-yeol sat at a dinner table with 2 children doing homework, while a woman who wasn't his wife prepared his favorite meal. On his phone was a message from Min-so. "She's transferring 50,000 today. That should cover the private school tuition and the vacation you promised the kids." Chan-yeol simply replied, "Perfect." That night, when Chan-yeol finally came home close to midnight, Abeba was still working. He walked past her office without stopping, heading straight to the shower. She heated up the dinner she'd prepared. When he emerged, she placed the food in front of him with a smile. "Long day?" "Brutal," he said, not looking up from his phone. "The suppliers are being difficult. Currency exchange rates are killing the margins." "Min-seo mentioned you were going through a rough patch. Why didn't you tell me?" He finally looked up, and something flickered across his face. "I didn't want to burden you with business problems. You have your own work to worry about. Chan-yeol, we're married. Your problems are my problems. I want to help." He reached across the table to squeeze her hand. It was the first affectionate gesture he'd made in weeks. "I know, and I appreciate that, but I can handle it. What if I helped financially? Just until things stabilize." He pulled his hand back. "I can't keep taking money from you, Abeba. It's not taking. It's borrowing. We're building this life together, remember? When the business succeeds, we both succeed." He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You're too good to me. I don't deserve you." It was the truest thing he'd said in months, but neither of them knew it yet. "I already scheduled the transfer for today. 50,000. Will that help?" His eyes widened slightly. "You already talked to Min-so about the amount?" "She called earlier. She's worried about you. She worries too much. But yes, that would help tremendously. Thank you." He stood up, kissed the top of her head, and went to the bedroom. Within minutes, she heard him on the phone, speaking Korean in low tones. She assumed he was talking to suppliers. She had no idea he was confirming with the other woman that their children's school tuition would be paid on time. Over the next 2 days, Abeba finalized every detail of their anniversary celebration. She confirmed the venue booking for 200 guests. She picked up the custom artwork she'd commissioned, a beautiful piece representing their 7-year journey together. She spent hours perfecting a video montage, cutting together photographs from their wedding day, their first apartment, the trip to Busan, where he'd proposed on the beach at sunrise. She believed, with her whole heart, that this anniversary would remind them both of what they'd built together. Lately, she felt like he'd forgotten. During those 2 days, her lawyer and longtime friend David also called with exciting news. "I wanted to give you a heads up. One of my corporate clients is looking for an AI consultant. Big project, serious budget. I immediately thought of your firm. I'm listening. It's Malik's Technology Group. They had a digital transformation project that didn't go well. I mentioned your name. They want a proposal." Abeba sat up straighter. Malik was a legend in African business circles. a self-made billionaire who'd built a technology empire spanning 12 countries. David, that's incredible. Thank you. You're the best at what you do. You deserve clients who recognize that. She smiled as they hung up. Everything was finally coming together. Her business was thriving. Her anniversary celebration was perfectly planned. And now this opportunity. She had no idea that within hours, her entire world would detonate. The evening before the anniversary, Chan-yeol came home, carrying an overnight bag. "I'm so sorry," he said, and he actually did look apologetic. "I have to drive out to meet suppliers tonight. There's a container being held at the port, and if I don't handle this in person, we'll lose the entire shipment." Abeba felt disappointment crash through her. "Tonight, Chan-yeol, our anniversary is tomorrow. I know, and I'll be back first thing in the morning. I promise. The party isn't until tomorrow evening anyway. I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that marriage meant showing up, but she'd been raised to be understanding, to support her husband. "Okay, drive safely." He kissed her cheek, grabbed his bag, and was gone within minutes. An hour later, Abeba walked into their bedroom and noticed Chan-yeol's black overnight bag still sitting by the closet door. He'd taken the wrong one. She picked it up, planning to call him, then stopped. He was probably already at the port by now, but the bag felt heavier than usual. She unzipped it slowly, expecting to find his laptop. Instead, she found neatly folded clothes, toiletries, and beneath a navy jacket, a phone she had never seen before. Her heart started beating faster. There was no reason for Chan-yeol to have a second phone. She picked it up. The screen woke without a password. Notifications filled the display. Messages from someone saved only as H. "Are you coming home tonight? The kids miss you. Don't forget, Jisoo has her recital on Friday." Abeba's vision blurred. She sat down on the edge of the bed and opened the message thread with shaking fingers. The messages went back over a year. Mundane, domestic, affectionate. Then came the photographs. Chan-yeol at a children's birthday party, 2 kids sitting on his lap, blowing out candles. Chan-yeol at a dining table, helping a little girl with homework. Chan-yeol on a beach, his arms around a woman Abeba had never seen, the sunset behind them, framing them like a postcard. Chan-yeol holding an infant, the baby's tiny hand wrapped around his finger. She scrolled faster, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Vacation photos, school reports, medical receipts, a Father's Day card that read, "We love you, Daddy," signed in children's handwriting. He had another family. Not an affair, not a mistake. A whole, entire, functioning family. She opened the financial records next, her hands no longer shaking, but moving with cold precision. Bank transfers. Every amount matched the money she had given him. 50,000 here, 30,000 there, 20, 60. All of it, every single dollar, had moved directly from his business account into payments for rent, private school tuition, hospital bills, car payments, vacation expenses. Her money had paid for another woman's life. She wanted to scream. Instead, she kept reading, because she needed to know everything. That's when she found the message that made something inside her turn to stone. Chan-yeol had written, "She'll never leave. She's too loyal. She actually thinks she's helping my business." The reply from H came with laughing emojis. "Your wife is paying for our children's future." Chan-yeol had simply responded, "Exactly." Abeba stared at the words until they burned into her mind. They weren't just lying to her, they were laughing at her, mocking the very loyalty she had given him, as though it were stupidity. She wanted to throw the phone through the window, wanted to call him and destroy him with words sharp enough to scar. Instead, she took screenshots. Every message, every photo, every financial record. She worked methodically, her hands steady, her breathing controlled. Then she placed the phone back exactly where she had found it. Zipped the bag, put it back by the closet door, straightened the bedspread. She walked to her home office, sat down at her desk, and called the one person she trusted more than anyone. David answered on the second ring. "Abeba, hey, Calling about the Malik proposal? I need a lawyer, she said, her voice eerily calm. Not a friend, a lawyer. The lightness left his voice immediately. What happened? Chan-yeol has a second family. He's been using my money to support them for at least a year. I have proof. I need to know what my options are. There was a long pause. When David spoke again, his tone was all business. Don't confront him. Don't tell anyone else. Send me everything you have, right now. Abeba, listen to me carefully. If what you're saying is accurate, this isn't just grounds for divorce. This is fraud. Good, she said. I want documentation of everything. You'll have it. I'm making calls tonight. She spent the next 3 hours forwarding evidence to David's encrypted email. Every screenshot, every financial record she could access, from her own banking apps. When she finally finished, it was past midnight. She went to bed. She didn't cry. Tears were for grief, and what she felt wasn't grief. It was clarity. The next morning, she woke early. Tomorrow was the anniversary party. She had 1 day to prepare, and she intended to use every minute. David called her before noon, his face grim on the video chat. Abeba, I've been working all night. Sit down. I'm already sitting. Chan-yeol's business was never struggling. I pulled the company records through a contact. It's been profitable for the past 3 years. He created false invoices and manipulated cash flow statements to make it look like he was barely surviving. She closed her eyes. He lied about all of it. It gets worse. He forged your signature 6 months ago to refinance your house. He pulled out $300,000 against the equity. Her eyes snapped open. He what? I have the documents. The signature is a decent forgery, but it's not yours. I'm having it verified by a handwriting expert right now, but I'm 90% certain he committed mortgage fraud using your identity. Where did the money go? David's expression darkened. He bought the house where the other family lives. It's in his name only. He also purchased a luxury SUV and put deposits on 2 investment properties. Everything traces back to that refinanced mortgage. Abeba felt like she was falling, even though she was sitting still. He stole $300,000 from our house to buy another woman a home. Yes, and that's a felony. Abeba, this isn't a messy divorce. This is organized financial fraud. If we go to the authorities, he could face serious criminal charges. What do you recommend? I recommend we document everything perfectly before making any moves. I want bank statements, business records, property documents, everything. When we're ready, we do this all at once, so he can't hide assets or destroy evidence. How long will that take? I can have everything ready by tomorrow. Perfect, Abeba said quietly. The anniversary party is tomorrow evening. 200 guests are confirmed. David was quiet for a moment. What are you planning? I'm planning to tell the truth. Let him stand in front of everyone and celebrate our marriage, and then I'm going to show them exactly what he's been celebrating. Abeba, if you're planning what I think you're planning, I'm planning revenge, David. He has taken me for granted for too long. She could hear the smile in David's voice when he responded. Okay, then we have 24 hours to build an airtight case. I'll work around the clock. Thank you. One more thing. I did some digging on Min-so. She's been in contact with the other woman for at least 2 years. Phone records show regular calls between them, and several of the transfers from Chan-yeol's account to pay for the second family's expenses happened within days of Min-so calling you about his business struggles. The room spun. She knew. The whole time. More than knew. She coordinated it. Every time they needed money, she'd call you with a carefully crafted story about Chan-yeol being too proud to ask for help. She manipulated you into funding the whole operation. Abeba thought about every conversation, every moment she'd trusted Min-so as a sister. The advice about being supportive, the encouragement to keep believing in Chan-yeol, all of it calculated. She's not just complicit, Abeba said slowly. She's the architect. That's my assessment. After the call ended, Abeba sat in silence for a long moment. The betrayal had layers she was still uncovering. It wasn't just her husband. It was his entire family. They'd all known. They'd all lied. They'd all benefited. That afternoon, She drove to Chanyeol's family home for the final planning meeting before the anniversary party. Min-so greeted her at the door with a warm hug. "Abeba, come in, come in. I'm so excited about tomorrow's celebration. 7 years. It feels like just yesterday you two were getting married." Abeba smiled and followed her inside. The house was full of relatives preparing food, arranging decorations, talking excitedly about the party. Chanyeol's mother embraced her. "Our beautiful daughter-in-law. You've made our Chanyeol so happy." The words were knives, but Abeba's smile never faltered. "I've tried my best." She moved through the house, accepting compliments, helping with preparations, playing the role she'd been assigned. The grateful wife, the supportive partner, the woman who knew her place. She was checking decorations in the back room when she heard Min-so's voice coming from the adjacent hallway. She was on the phone, speaking in low, urgent Korean. Abeba's language skills were good enough to understand. "No, she doesn't suspect anything. I talked to her 3 days ago, and she transferred the money without even hesitating." "Yes, that should cover the tuition and the vacation. Everything is set for tomorrow night. He's going to do it at the anniversary party itself." Abeba's blood ran cold. Min-so continued, her voice dropping even lower. "He'll give the speech thanking everyone. Then he'll announce that the marriage isn't working, that they've grown apart. He'll be gentle about it, make it seem mutual. Then he'll introduce you and the children right there. Yes, in front of everyone. That way, it's done cleanly. No drawn-out separation, no back and forth. Just a clean transition from one family to the next." Abeba's heart turned to ice. Her hands gripped the doorframe. "No one will question it, because I've been preparing the family for months. Everyone already thinks Abeba is cold, too career-focused, that she neglects him. They'll actually be relieved he's found someone who puts family first. Yes, I know. You're better for him. Chanyeol needs a wife who understands what it means to be a proper Korean wife." Min-so laughed softly. She planned this whole anniversary celebration, thinking it would bring them closer. She has no idea she's throwing a party for her own replacement. Tomorrow night, 200 people will watch him end one marriage and begin another. It's almost poetic. The call ended. Abeba heard Min-so's footsteps walking away. She stood in the empty room, surrounded by anniversary decorations, and finally understood. He wasn't just leaving her. He was planning to publicly humiliate her, replace her, and make it look like her fault, all in one calculated performance. She walked back into the main room where Min-so was arranging flowers. "These look beautiful," Abeba said warmly. "You have such good taste." Min-so beamed. "Thank you. I want everything perfect for tomorrow's special day." "It will be," Abeba said, her smile never wavering. "I promise you, it's going to be unforgettable." She stood in the empty room, surrounded by anniversary decorations, and finally understood the complete picture. This wasn't just infidelity. This was a coordinated plan to replace her while extracting as much money as possible first. The day of the anniversary arrived. Abeba woke up early and took her time getting ready. She chose a stunning dress, deep burgundy, elegant and powerful. She did her makeup carefully, styled her hair, and put on the diamond earrings Chanyeol had given her on their first anniversary. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. The woman staring back wasn't the trusting wife who'd believed love meant endless sacrifice. This was someone harder, someone who'd learned that kindness without boundaries was just another word for target. Chanyeol had come home late the previous night, full of apologies for the supplier meeting taking longer than expected. He'd held her and told her he loved her and promised today would be special. She'd kissed him back and meant none of it. As they drove to the venue together that evening, he reached over and squeezed her hand. 7 years. "Can you believe it?" "No," she said honestly. "I really can't." The venue was beautiful. Soft lighting, elegant decorations, tables full of food. 200 guests mingled in their finest clothes. Business associates, church members, family, friends. Everyone who'd been part of their life together. Abeba moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations, smiling for photographs. playing her part perfectly. David was there, standing near the back, his expression carefully neutral. He caught her eye and gave a slight nod. Everything was ready. The evening progressed according to plan. Dinner was served. Toasts were made. Chanyol's business partners praised him. Church members talked about what an inspiring couple they were. Just before Chanyol rose to give a speech, the speech that was meant to end them, Abeba rose gracefully and grabbed the mic first, then spoke clearly into the microphone. "Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Your presence means the world to me. I want to take a moment to talk about these 7 years, because they've taught me lessons I'll never forget." She could feel Chanyol beside her, smiling, unsuspecting. Marriage is about trust. It's about believing your partner when they say they're working late. When they say the business is struggling, when they say they need your support. I trusted my husband completely. I believed everything he told me. Something in her tone made the room go quiet. She saw Min-so near the front, watching with a slight frown. I believed him when he said his import company was barely surviving. So I gave him over $200,000 over 2 years to help keep it afloat. Private loans, carefully documented, because I thought we were building our future together. Chanyol's hand found her arm. "Abeba, what are you?" She moved away from his touch and kept speaking. I believed him when he said he was traveling for business, when he stayed away 3-4 nights a week. I believed him because that's what wives are supposed to do, right? Trust, support, believe. The room was dead silent now. But 2 nights ago, I found something interesting. A phone my husband accidentally left behind when he rushed out for yet another business emergency. And on that phone, I discovered his second family. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Chanyol's face went white. For over a year, my husband has been living another life across town. Another home, another woman, 2 children, complete with birthday parties, family vacations, and Father's Day cards. She reached into her purse and pulled out a remote. Behind her, the large screen that was supposed to show their wedding photos flickered to life. Instead, photographs of Chanyol's second family filled the screen. Chanyol at a children's birthday party, 2 kids on his lap. Chanyol on vacation with the other woman. Chanyol helping with homework. Chanyol being the father and husband to them that he'd stopped being to her. The room erupted. People stood. Voices overlapped. Chanyol lunged for the remote, but David stepped smoothly between them. Abeba's voice cut through the chaos, calm and clear. Every dollar I gave him for his struggling business went to support them. Rent, tuition, vacations, medical bills. His business was never struggling. It was profitable. He just needed my money to fund his double life. She clicked to the next slide. Bank statements appeared on the screen, amounts highlighted, dates matched to her transfers. "But it gets better," she said. 6 months ago, my husband forged my signature to refinance our house. He took $300,000 without my knowledge or consent. That money bought the house his second family lives in. More gasps. Chanyol's mother had her hand over her mouth. His business partners were staring at him in shock. This was the most emotional point of the story. And if you're feeling everything Abeba felt, don't just watch. Engage with us. Subscribe to Afro Soul Romance TV, because this story gets even more powerful. Comment below and tell us what you would have done in Abeba's position. And hit that like button if you're ready to see how she rebuilds her entire life from these ashes. The most powerful moment in the entire evening came when Abeba turned to Min-so. And I want to give special thanks to my dear sister-in-law, Min-so, who knew about everything from the beginning. Min-so's face drained of color. Every time the second family needed money, Min-so would call me with a story about Chanyol being too proud to ask for help. She'd encourage me to support him, to believe in him, to keep giving, because a good wife supports her husband, right? That's what she always told me. The screen changed again. Phone records showing the calls between Min-so and the other woman. For 2 years, she coordinated this. She manipulated me into funding her brother's second family, while convincing his relatives that I was a cold, career-focused wife who neglected him. She laid the groundwork so that when he finally left me, no one would blame him. Min-so tried to speak. That's not. I was trying to. You were trying to extract as much money from me as possible while preparing everyone to accept his new family, Abeba said. Her voice was still calm. She wasn't yelling. She was simply stating facts. You didn't just enable the betrayal. You architected it. She turned back to the crowd. I want to thank my husband for teaching me that loyalty can be weaponized. That love without self-respect is just self-destruction. And that sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they are. She set down the microphone and looked at Chanyol one last time. My lawyer will be in touch. Don't come home tonight. Don't call me. Don't try to explain. We're done. Then she walked out of the venue, leaving 200 stunned guests behind her. David followed her outside. She was standing in the parking lot, breathing in the cool night air, her hands finally shaking now that it was over. You okay? He asked quietly. No, she said, but I will be. Behind them, they could hear shouting from inside the venue. Chaos, confrontation, the collapse of Chanyol's carefully constructed lies. Abeba got in her car and drove home. The house felt different now. It wasn't hers anymore. It was just a building full of memories that had turned out to be lies. She changed out of her dress, washed off her makeup, and sat on the couch in the dark. Her phone was exploding with calls and messages. She ignored all of them, except one from David. Divorce papers will be filed first thing tomorrow morning. I'm also recommending we pursue fraud charges. Mortgage fraud, identity theft, embezzlement. You have an airtight case. You were magnificent tonight. She texted back, thank you, for everything. Then she turned off her phone and sat in silence, feeling the weight of 7 years slide off her shoulders. The legal process moved with surprising speed. David filed fraud complaints with 3 different banks. The forged signature on the refinancing documents was verified by handwriting experts within a week. All 3 concluded it wasn't Abeba's signature. Chanyel's accounts were frozen. His business ground to a halt without access to operating funds. Shipments were held. Suppliers pulled contracts. The house he'd purchased for his second family was seized as proceeds from mortgage fraud. Within 2 weeks, the other woman had disappeared, taking the children and moving to another city. She wanted nothing to do with the legal catastrophe unfolding. Min-so tried calling Abeba repeatedly, leaving voicemails that swung wildly between defensive and tearful. I was trying to keep the family together. You don't understand Korean family culture. Please, Abeba, you have to forgive me. I'm sorry. Abeba deleted every message without listening to the end. David's investigation uncovered more. Former employees were willing to testify that Chanyol had openly joked about getting money from his wife. He used to laugh about it, one warehouse manager said in his statement. He'd say, "My wife thinks she's saving my business, but she's actually paying for my real family's vacation." He thought it was hilarious. Reading that hurt less than Abeba expected. She'd moved beyond pain into something colder and clearer. The divorce finalized in 3 months. Chanyol's lawyer tried to argue for community property division. David shut it down in one hearing. My client's AI consulting firm was established and operated independently. Her husband contributed nothing to it and didn't even know its full scope. Meanwhile, he committed mortgage fraud, identity theft, and embezzled over $500,000. He gets nothing. The judge agreed. Chanyol left the marriage with nothing but legal bills and a destroyed reputation. Abeba kept everything: the house, her business, her dignity. For the first time in 7 years, everything she owned was entirely hers. But the months after weren't easy. Some nights, she sat alone, wondering if she'd been naive, if the warning signs had been obvious, and she'd simply chosen to ignore them. David came by one evening and found her in this mood. "Talk to me," he said. "Do you think I should have known? People keep saying the signs were there. The only people saying that are people who've never been manipulated by someone they loved," David said firmly. "You trusted your husband. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. He weaponized that trust. That's on him, not you. I gave him $500,000, David. You're a successful AI engineer, running a thriving company. You believed in your partner. That doesn't make you stupid. That makes you loyal. He exploited it. That makes him a criminal. Something in his words settled the restless doubt. She started sleeping better, working with more focus, rebuilding not just her business, but her sense of who she was. She threw herself into her company. She hired a team of talented engineers, many of them young women in tech, who reminded her of herself years earlier. Never make yourself smaller to make someone else comfortable, she told them during a team meeting. Your intelligence isn't negotiable. They looked at her with something close to awe. 6 months after the divorce, she received an invitation to keynote the African AI Innovation Summit. It was one of the continent's most prestigious technology conferences. Around the same time, David called with news about the Malik opportunity. Remember that proposal you submitted? They loved it. They want a final presentation. Malik himself will be there. That's fine, Abeba said. I'm used to presenting to executives. After everything she'd survived, a business meeting felt like nothing. The following week, she arrived at Malik's headquarters. The building blended African design with modern technology, beautiful and purposeful. She was escorted to a small meeting room where Malik himself was waiting. He stood when she entered, his handshake firm, his smile genuine. Ms. Abeba, thank you for coming. I've been looking forward to this. Thank you for the opportunity. I understand your previous digital transformation didn't go well. That's a polite way of putting it, Malik said, with unexpected humor. We paid a fortune for a system that barely worked. That's common in AI. A lot of firms oversell and underdeliver, which is why I was interested when David recommended you. Your approach is different. You focus on ethical implementation. Technology should solve problems, not create them, Abeba said. If you don't consider bias and long-term impact, you just automate inequality. Malik leaned forward. Tell me more. The 1-hour presentation turned into a 3-hour conversation. Malik asked thoughtful questions, engaged deeply, never once trying to prove he knew more than he did. Abeba found herself enjoying it more than she'd enjoyed a professional meeting in years. When it ended, Malik stood and shook her hand again. I want your firm for this project. Your approach is exactly what we need. I won't let you down, Abeba said. I don't think you're capable of that, he replied. Over the months that followed, the project went smoothly. Abeba's team worked seamlessly with Malik's company. She had occasional meetings with Malik, and each time she noticed how different he was from other wealthy executives. No ego, no assumptions, just genuine respect. One afternoon, after a successful milestone, he invited her for coffee. They sat in his surprisingly modest office. Can I ask you something personal? Malik said. Feel free to say no. Go ahead. David mentioned you went through a difficult divorce. I'm not asking for details. I just want you to know that whatever you survived to get here, it forged someone extraordinary. The integrity in your work speaks to someone who values substance. Most people either pitied her or got uncomfortably curious. Malik did neither. Thank you, she said. It was difficult, but it taught me I'm stronger than I thought. That's evident, he said, though I'd argue you were always that strong. It was the beginning of something neither planned but both recognized. Over the following months, their professional relationship became friendship. Phone calls about technology, conversations about business philosophy, shared values. When Malik learned what Chan Yol had done, his response was simple. Anyone who could survive that and still choose integrity is someone worth knowing. Not as a consultant, as a person. They started spending time together outside work. Dinners that began as business and evolved into conversations about life. People love success stories after you've succeeded, Malik said one evening. But when you're building it, they call you crazy. I'm learning success looks different than I thought, Abeba replied. I thought it was having a perfect marriage. Now I think it's becoming someone you respect. I respect who you've become, Malik said quietly. This is the most intense part, where everything pays off. If you're invested in seeing Abeba win, subscribe to Afro Seoul Romance TV. Comment and tell us what you think of Malik. Hit that like button, because what's coming next will make you smile. A year after her divorce, Abeba stood backstage at the African AI Innovation Summit, about to deliver the keynote to over 2,000 people. Her speech was about ethical AI, about building technology that served humanity. But woven through it was her story. She'd learned about manipulation by being manipulated, about rebuilding by having to rebuild herself. She walked onto the stage and began. We talk about AI as though it's separate from humanity, as though algorithms are neutral. But that's a lie. Every system carries the biases of its creators. Our responsibility is to make technology that works for everyone. She spoke for 40 minutes. The standing ovation lasted nearly a minute. Backstage afterward, crowds surrounded her. She spent an hour in energized conversation. Finally, the crowd thinned. Malik was waiting at the edge of the area. He walked toward her with a quiet smile. That was extraordinary. Thank you for coming. There's nowhere I'd rather have been. They stood there, and something passed between them. A year of conversations, growing respect, recognition. Malik seemed to decide something. The world knows the brilliant engineer. I'd like to know the remarkable woman behind her, if you're open to that. Abeba looked at him, at the man who'd never made her feel small, who celebrated her success without competing, who responded to her story with respect, not pity. She thought about Chanyel, who'd needed her to be less, and about the woman she'd become, someone who knew her worth. I'd like that, she said. They had dinner that night. Just conversation, technology, philosophy, dreams, laughter. I used to think success was about achievement, she said. Now I think it's about who you become. You're exactly who you were meant to be, Malik replied. Over the months that followed, they built something unhurried. Respect. Trust. Conversations that challenged them both. Malik never tried to rescue her. He matched her strength. Abeba never needed validation, but she let herself be vulnerable again. 18 months after the divorce, Abeba stood in her office. Her consulting firm had grown to 30 employees, 3 countries, international recognition. Everything she'd built was entirely hers. David called that afternoon. Chanyel's trial concluded. He pled guilty to mortgage fraud and identity theft. 3 years in prison, full restitution ordered. How much will I see? Probably very little. He's bankrupt. Good, she said. Not revenge. Accountability. That evening, Malik picked her up. I want to show you something. Trust me. He drove them to a private observatory. You once told me you wanted to be an astronaut as a child. She looked at him, warmth spreading through her chest. You remembered. I remember everything you tell me. They spent hours under the stars. It's humbling, she said, how small we are. Or how miraculous, Malik said, that we found each other. He was watching her, not the stars. Abeba, I need to be honest. Being with you taught me that building with someone is different than building alone. You challenge me, match me, inspire me. He took her hand. I'm not asking you to marry me. Not yet. I know you need time, but I'm asking you to build a future with me. As partners, as equals. Tears filled her eyes. Not sad tears. The tears of someone who'd survived the worst and found that better existed. Yes, she said, to all of it. 6 months later, they co-presented at another conference. Their expertise complemented perfectly. During Q&A, a young woman stood. Miss Abeba, what advice would you give women struggling to find their strength? Abeba was quiet. I'd tell them strength isn't about never getting hurt. It's about what you do after. I thought being a good partner meant making myself smaller. I was wrong. The right person celebrates when you expand. She glanced at Malik, who watched with pride. Betrayal teaches you things success never can. Your worth, your resilience. That you can survive what you thought would destroy you. Everything I lost cleared space for what I was meant to gain. The young woman sat, emotional. The applause was for the truth. 3 months later, on a quiet evening, Malik asked Abeba to marry him. They were cooking dinner, arguing playfully about jollof rice recipes. She was laughing when he got quiet. Abeba. He was holding a small box. I know marriage is complicated for you now, But I need you to know something. I will never ask you to be less. I will never diminish your success. I will never betray your trust. He opened the box. A simple, elegant ring. I'm not asking you to complete me. We're both whole. I'm asking if you want to build something where two whole people choose each other every day. Will you marry me? She'd learned she didn't need marriage to be complete, which meant if she chose it, it would be for the right reasons. Yes, not because I need you, because I choose you, every day. They married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Only people who mattered. David walked her down the aisle. Her team was there. Malik's family welcomed her fully. Chanyol and Min So were not there. They existed only as a cautionary tale now. During the reception, David pulled her aside. Years ago, I thought my job was to protect you legally. But watching you survive and become who you've become, I realize you never needed protecting. You needed someone to document your strength while you discovered it. Thank you for believing I was worth fighting for. Always. As evening wound down, Abeba and Malik stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Do you ever think about how different your life would be if you'd never found that phone? Malik asked. Sometimes. But then I realize I'd still be living a lie. Finding that phone didn't ruin my life. It saved it. I'm grateful it did. No, Abeba corrected gently. I led me here. Surviving led me here. You're the gift I gave myself for doing the hard work. He kissed her forehead. I'll take it. 3 years after the anniversary that destroyed her first marriage, Abeba cut the ribbon on her company's newest office. She was running one of the continent's most respected AI firms. Over 100 employees, regular government consulting. Malik stood in the crowd, proud but never taking credit. A reporter approached. Mr. Malik, how does it feel to be married to such a successful woman? It feels like I made the smartest decision of my life. Abeba's success is hers alone. I'm just lucky she shares her life with someone who recognizes that. The reporter turned to Abeba. How do you balance career and marriage? I don't balance. I choose a partner who doesn't need me to sacrifice my career to validate his ego. We build together. But neither needs the other to be less. That night, they went home to the life they'd built. Not perfect, but honest, respectful, real. Abeba thought about the woman she'd been 5 years ago. The one who believed love meant sacrifice, who funded her own betrayal. That woman died the night she found the phone. In her place was someone who'd learned that the greatest victory wasn't exposing who betrayed you. It was becoming someone who never had to shrink to be loved. She'd learned respect wasn't negotiable. That partnership meant addition, that the right person celebrates your success. And she'd learned that sometimes the worst thing that happens is actually the beginning of the best thing. She just had to be brave enough to survive the transition. As she fell asleep, Malik's arm around her, her company thriving, her life entirely her own, Abeba smiled. She'd won. Not because she destroyed Chanyol. She'd won because she refused to let betrayal make her bitter. She chose to become better instead. And in the end, that was the greatest victory. Living well, loving honestly, building a life so fulfilling that those who betrayed you became nothing more than a footnote in a story about strength and the kind of love that deserves the name. Some losses are liberations, some endings are beginnings, and sometimes the person who breaks your heart does you the greatest favor, showing you exactly what you deserve to never settle for again. Thank you for watching this journey on Afro Soul Romance TV. If this story moved you or reminded you of your own strength, subscribe because we tell stories that matter. Comment below and share what part of Abeba's journey resonated most. Hit that like button to help us reach people who need to hear that betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of a better chapter. See you in the next story.